This episode is brought to you by Excel Coaching Academy. Hey guys, I'm really excited to let you know that I started a mindset coaching business. So what I want to do with this business is I want to help entrepreneurs, business owners, salespeople, leaders, and fitness enthusiasts or athletes develop the right mindset to increase revenue, improve business or performance, and overcome the challenges needed to become the best version of themselves. You can get more information about this by emailing info@excelcoaching.academy. So we were talking about networking, the power of networking, and you said you feel like it's gonna grow, or it is growing, exponentially, from maybe what it used to be. I don't know, man. It's just like I feel like it's so powerful because I think that there's this lone wolf mentality in business that like, oh, I'm going to do everything, by myself. I'm going to do all this stuff. And a lot of it does fall on you, but having the right team around you, I feel like is critical, because I mean, you're not going to know everything, and you shouldn't, you should spend your time doing what is going to be most productive to you and your business. And I think having the right, whether that's financial or, insurance wise or whatever it is, legal wise, whatever it is. I mean, I think having the right team is critical.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always tell people nobody really likes Michael Jordan because he played baseball, right? He was good at that one
Right.
thing that people know him for. So finding the other people to fill those roles for you that, that it's complementary. It's not just a one-sided thing, but you guys can work back and forth, find different ways of collaborating, because then you can really focus in and hone in and become an expert in whatever it is you're doing and find everybody else to do that. Because if you're referring clients back and forth, you're getting a gold star as if you did it yourself, if you're doing a good job of it. So you can do exponentially more that way as well, because you're not the only one out prospecting for you. Other people know you, and they're gonna meet people that you're a good fit for. And if you have that established relation, it's just like automatic.
You mentioned Michael Jordan. I don't think a lot of people know this, that he made more money from Nike than he did the NBA.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Because you think like him being one of the GOATs in basketball, you would think that he made like and he made, he made a lot, but he made significantly more with Nike. Like, so he made more on the branding than he did on the actual job.
Yeah, it still is. I can't remember. What was the name of the movie that came out with Mark Wahlberg about it? Or not Mark Wahlberg, but I'm blanking on his name. But where the story of Nike getting Michael Jordan on. That was a great movie.
I've seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the like clips or whatever. But yeah, I didn't realize, because I saw that and I was like, dude, there's no way he made more from the Nike than the NBA. And I looked it up, and it's a fact. Like, he made more.
Yeah, and he still is. It's not like he's done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
he's done. I mean, he probably still gets some sort of royalties from the NBA, but then like he's got the Nike thing, and it's just, I don't know, man. I know we kind of shifted from networking to branding, but that's something else I think this overlooked too, because like the power of building a personal, a brand. I don't think people realize that goes farther, than just your interaction with that person.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with networking too, because people are going to remember you based on, that as well. So it's not like they're exclusive, because, I've spent a lot of time in business where I was working, self-employed, but I was working under a different brand. And it took me a couple of times at that, realizing, making changes that you have to start over again. It's like, it's better to build yourself up and then work off of that, because whatever changes you make along the way, then, it's still your brand. You still grow it. So that's that's a super big, important part of it too.
So, so if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, man, just kind of get this background, because we're talking about all this networking and branding, and if you want to share your experience, in these spaces, and then we'll dive in.
Yeah, so I've been self-employed for 7 years now, roughly. I've done basically a little bit of everything before that, but finally landed on I can't find the best job for me, so I'm going to make it, and that continues to change, as time goes on. Sorry, getting over a cold right now. So, but no, it's started off in the life and health industry, changed up a bunch of different things, landed at being a business profit advocate. So basically helping businesses find money and save money in ways they don't know they have available to them. And I was doing a lot of networking, spending a lot of time, a lot of hours, a lot of money meeting people. And, I had some restrictions because I was in the B2B space. They had to be in the US company. They had to be a certain size. And if you spend any time networking online or in person, that's not the majority of the people you're going to meet. There's way more solopreneurs, micro businesses out there than people that were going to be the avatar of my business. And, the goal was, okay, if I meet more of them, then, create relationships. They'll refer me to those people that are. The thing is, when you spend any time networking, it's a lot of it is just one and done. You meet somebody, you have a conversation, then you never talk to them again. So I was kind of in that zone where I was having a lot of meetings, spinning my tires. Not a lot was coming out of it, but I was meeting a lot of awesome people doing awesome things, and I wanted to be able to help them as much as I can. So I decided I was going to make these meetings about them. I was going to find a way to serve them, because that's a good way of, actually creating genuine connections, is go in not expecting anything. Just go in with the intention of helping that person in any way that you can. Because, I'm a firm believer in the Zig Ziglar, help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. The golden rule, the reap what you sow, the karma, the go-giver, whatever words you want to put to it. We've been trying to define it since, humanity first started realizing this stuff. So thousands and thousands of years. So I figured I'm just going to steer into that concept. So I decided to add value to everybody I'm meeting. I'm going to start making these meetings all about them, recording it and sharing it. So leveraging what they're doing against my network and the other people's network that I'm meeting, and then leveraging what I'm doing against theirs, so it's mutually beneficial. So that's kind of how that started about 16 weeks ago. Started the I Know a Guy podcast, newsletter, all that, where I basically make, podcasts about entrepreneurs doing cool things and hopes to introduce them to other ones. So it's been fun. There's a lot of people out there doing awesome things that I would have otherwise not have known. I've been getting introductions to people that I would otherwise never have met. So it's turning into more than I thought it would quicker. And it's quickly become my favorite thing that I'm doing, because I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm just genuinely meeting awesome people, trying to, help them out, and then finding ways to collaborate, which is, in my experience, done more good for me since starting this in the last 16 weeks and the last 7 years of, my original type of networking.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy, man. First of all, I congratulations, because 16 weeks is, that's the, man, those first, I remember I guess anytime you do anything new, that first little bit is tough, man. Overcoming, like learning how to do things, overcoming things. Like, for example, my situation right now, I'm roughly, this is like maybe 70-ish, 71 by the time, like, your episode's probably going to be like set number 71. And now I'm having a camera issue. Apparently I'm having a sync issue. So I'm going to have to figure that out. And it's just like anytime you do something new, the first little bit is the hardest part. So, but when you were talking about not trying to sell anybody anything, I think that right there is going to give you great traction, because I found out by accident that a lot of people in the podcast space, man, are trying to sell people things. And it's like, dude, I'm literally like, am I a business owner? Yes. Am I a mindset coach? Yes. Do I want to get to the point maybe where the podcast can, I don't know, be monetized or whatever? Yes, probably. But like, I don't see these things as a sales call. Like, I'm not trying to sell you anything, or the next person. I'm not trying to sell them anything. And I found that out the hard way, man, because that takes look, if somebody wants to do that, fine, whatever. I'm not, whatever. But like, it's hard to have a conversation with somebody and learn about that person, learn about what they do. Like in your situation, learn like what who you are, what you do. You can't really do that if you're trying to be sold to. It's crazy. Like, I actually, I talked to this lady. I'm not gonna say any names, but I talked to a person about going on her podcast, right? And so, I don't know, she did her thing, and she was like trying to, going over her questions to qualify me or whatever. Well, I told her that I was a mindset coach, and then she instantly perked up, because what she was doing was she was actually selling programs to other coaches. And so then it was only supposed to be about a 15-minute call. We spent the next 45 minutes with her trying to pitch her thing to me. And it ended up being more than I've ever been quoted for a coaching package. I mean, there's a range that's acceptable. This person was sort of, it was out there. And then it got to the point where the conversation was ended. She was like, well, I don't think you're going to be a good fit for the podcast right now. Yada, yada, yada. I was like, bro, well, I just sat here for 45 minutes and you tried to sell to me, and now you're telling me I can't go. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's like, I wish that people would say that before you went to talk to them. Like, if it's just you and I, we're having a conversation, we're trying to grow our networks, we're trying to spread information, that's different. But if you're like, and this is something I will say this, I don't respect this. If a person is a coach or selling some sort of program, and they bring a person into their podcast and then try to from there sell that, and that person has no idea that this person does that, there's something about that, man, that I don't respect. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. And you run into that. I don't know this lady's story or anything. I don't know if she's new or if she's been doing this for a long time, but that ever worked on anybody ever? It's been my experience starting in sales, having that commission breath and coming out, and I'm only here to sell. I'm only here to, I don't care anything that you have to say. I'm here to talk about my stuff, and I'm going to lure you into a situation where you kind of have to listen to me. Yeah, no, that's shady.
Yeah.
But they self-sort themselves that way. So there's I always say there's two types of people you're going to remember in networking, because if you look at it like a bell curve, you're going to have those people because you'll remember her. You're going to remember that exact
Oh yeah.
conversation for probably ever. And you're going to remember never to talk to her again. Right. And then you're going to have all the average meetings in the middle. And then on the very other end, the polar opposite of her is going to be the people that came in and said, I want to help you, and not ask for anything. They're there simply to provide value. And you're going to remember those people, and you're going to remember them for the right reasons. And like you said, yeah, we need to know what you do, because if you provide that kind of value, and I ever hear of a situation that I think you would be a good fit for, you're the person that I'm talking about, right? So it's just having that exact opposite mindset that's going to take you way further. But I don't know, maybe it works for her. I don't see how, because I would have been the exact same way. Like, okay, I kind of don't want to be on your show now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't
Well, I
like
mean,
this
first of all,
vibe.
you can't get your 45 minutes back.
Yeah.
There's that right there. But I don't know, man. It's like, yeah, you're exactly right. Cause if I ever run into a person who, and I forget what kind of, you know, niche she was in, but like, if I ever run into a person that needs that, probably not going to refer them that way. You know what I mean? Like, but I mean, it's also too, like, it's, I feel like with the referral thing, man. So this is something I had a conversation with somebody about a couple days ago. I feel like with the referral thing, if you come to me or somebody comes to me and they're looking for a specific person and I send them to a person and they end up having a bad experience from that person, well, they're not going to look at that person nearly as much as they are me. It's like, well, you referred me to this person, that you told me this person, whatever. And it's like, that's also another thing, man. It's like, it's almost like you put, when you're in that referral space, it's like you put your name out there. So you have to develop relationships with these people to know about them and learn about them, like, cause you
Hmm.
can't, especially if it's something that, like something that really has the ability to mess somebody up, like a financial planner or, accountant or something like that. I mean, you want to make sure that you know these people. And I think the whole point of saying all this is, the best salespeople that I know and the best, what would you say, procurement people that I know, they emphasize building those relationships, like getting to know that person.
Yeah, I've had people reach out to me and say, "Hey, can you add me to your referral list?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah, like, who
I
are you?
don't. Yeah, I have no idea who you are. I don't know what you do, so I don't even know how to refer you. So let's have a meeting, I guess. Maybe
Yeah.
worst case scenario, I'll
Right.
give you some tips on not doing this ever again, because it's not going to work for you. But
Yeah.
no, absolutely, and that goes back to your brand. If you start making bad referrals to people, that shows up on you. Like you said, you're going to get a gold star if you make a good one, and you're going to get a negative check mark if you make a bad one. So it's super
Mm.
important for your brand not to promote that stuff, because the moment somebody has that, it's like, okay, why'd you do this? So yeah, no, for sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's weird. It's a weird time that we're in right now because we have the social media and we have the things online and everything's virtual and we can work with people across the world. And I think that's certainly helpful. I mean, I think that can definitely help us out. But I think we also had to be careful too, because I mean, the person on the other end of that call could literally be anybody. It could literally, like, if you don't, if they, I'm not saying not having a website doesn't mean you're not, legit, because I don't have a website. But if it's like, if you don't find some kind of way to look at that person's content or material or, something where, I mean, like, the person could literally be anybody. Like, I mean, I'll post on Facebook or whatever, these podcast groups, and people will comment, about interest for the podcast. And most of the time they're actual real people, but every once in a while you'll get that it's like a bot account almost, like they'll send you a message and it's like, what are we doing here? Because at some point we're going to have a face-to-face call. So how are we going to handle it? Like, what are we going to do then? I don't know, man. It's just, you got to be careful, I think, on that online stuff.
Oh, for sure. Just today, actually, I had a message come in through Facebook where somebody's seen something, and it said, "Hello, parentheses your name parentheses. I'm going to optimize what you do. I'm going to help you with your parentheses brand name parentheses." And I was like, you know what? you're out there trying to cold call people. I get it, but maybe put my name where it says your name, or company name. Like maybe optimize it so you're going to get inundated just by having anything out there where people are, and that's not the majority of the people. They're just the most frequent because they're constantly doing it. So
yeah, I mean, I get it from those guys' perspectives. Like they're if they're a YouTube promoter or whatever they are, I get it. Like they have to get their clients some kind of way. But yeah, man, at the same time, I think well, it's like if so you and I are, just imagine the huge pot, like Joe Rogan, like just imagine how many DMs they get about whatever, which he's got a very efficient producer, but like so we talk about networking, talk about branding, and how do you set yourself apart in that situation? Because there's millions, if not at least hundreds of thousands of people that are going in DM saying, hey, I can monetize your YouTube channel. I can grow this. Like we're, like we just said, we're getting inundated with that all day, every day. And so like, how do you set yourself apart from that to not be that person? Like you said earlier, the person, I'm going to remember this person that we talked about, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, but how are you remembered for the right reasons? And so I think that's important, man, to just figure out like, how can you set yourself apart? And I don't know, I'm not in that industry. I'm not in that space. I don't do the whole, SEO, social media stuff, but I think that would be the route that I try to take with that.
Yeah, you almost couldn't do that because you're being inundated. Even if you do have a really valuable offer and you could help, you're just immediately going to be lumped in with everybody else that's spamming that person. So,
and it's probably not even going to be read, to be honest.
No, absolutely. They're going to see like your opener and be like, nope, okay, next. You got to stand out on your own. That way, people reach out to you, because I don't think there's a whole lot of people that Joe Rogan reaches out to about coming on as a guest. I think, there's a whole lot of people that reach out to him to be a guest, but I think the majority of the ones that come on are the ones that he's reaching out to specifically. It's like, hey, I have this thing. I want you to come on for XYZ. And so you kind of got to be that guy that you do have that, that presence that people are reaching out to you about it. Because the moment you start reaching out, and then, same with them, I imagine they get the exact same kind of emails. So that would be a tricky environment to be in. I know it's weird doing this, from my side now, because it's different than anything that I've ever done. And I'm figuring that out. And I imagine that would just be another layer because it would go both ways with them. So I hadn't really thought about that.
Well, but so I think you're actually onto something, man. Cause I think that so we're talking about these people getting in your DMs or whatever. A podcast like yours would be a great opportunity for these people to go. Like, I feel like if I was in that space and there was a guy like you who had like the theme of your show, I would come to you and say, hey, I wouldn't say, hey, I can grow your YouTube channel. I would say, hey, how do I apply to be on your show? That way I can get on, talk about my services, and then promote myself that way. Cause I feel like you'd have a much better chance of that. Like for me, it's a little bit different because this is a whole personal growth and self-improvement. That's the theme of this podcast. So like, I don't know, maybe the person could come on here, we could have a conversation, people could get to hear them or whatever. But it's like in your space, that's literally the point of the show is like to network. So I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah,
what were you saying?
No, absolutely. I think another way too, especially because, I've come from sales. I know how hard it is, especially in the B2B space, to walk in and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this. See ya. Having a value add that you're literally going in and talking or doing something that is no way, mentioning what you do, because the best way in my experience to tell people about what you're doing is to ask them what they do. Because then you get them talking about themselves, and then you don't interrupt them. You just let them go for as long as they possibly can. You ask interesting questions, you engage with them. And then eventually what happens is they go, hey, I'm sorry, I just talked about myself for 30 minutes. Can you tell me about you? And then they're going to reciprocate and do the same thing. So if you are wanting to network and do something the correct way, that's how you're going to do it. If I walked into a business, let's say, and said, hey, I want to talk to you about your benefits. Next, right? I'm sorry, I'm not here. But if you go in and go, hey, I'd like to have you on my show. I think you'd be a great podcast. You're adding value. You're saying, hey, I want to do this thing for you. It's mutually beneficial by all, by all accounts, but it's just different perceptively because I'm trying to add value before I ask or even ever ask, let them ask about you. So I think that's the appropriate way of doing it now.
Yeah, that's a great point, is providing that value before it. Like, it's almost like you want to do it for free just to show just to offer that. And then from there, I feel like you'll probably get interactions with people. Because I don't know, man, the whole, like, everybody has probably had the experience of like an overly pushy salesperson, and like, I hate to use this example because it's so cliche, and I actually have friends in this space, but you think about the used car salesman, right? Like, dude, you go to a car lot or you go to a dealership and you express some kind of interest in it, and they are just like, they are ambitious. You know what I mean? Like and I respect it, whatever. But like, me, if I'm on the side of that, if I'm in that position and somebody's like overly aggressive with sales, I don't care how bad I need that thing, I'm probably not buying it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I need some space right here. But yeah, I don't know, man. That providing value, I think, is just to show people like, hey, this is what I can do or whatever. I think that's very important. And I don't know. I'm actually surprised that more people don't do something like that. Like something, I'm not saying go out and give a 3-week or 3-month program to somebody for free, but I mean, just offer value to somebody. I think that's incredible. And I think it's overlooked. I do think it's overlooked.
It's overlooked enough that when it happens to you, you're kind of taken aback and be like, oh, well, I don't know. Let's see. Because if the first thing somebody says to you is, hey, you know what? I'm Anthony. It's nice to meet you. I was taking a look at everything that you're doing. How do you think I can help you out? You're like, oh, you didn't ask me for something. I was ready for the pitch. I was ready. He caught me off guard. And then don't ask for anything in return, because, that's the put enough good out there, it's going to come back to you mentality, because, people want to reciprocate. If you can add value and they come up and they genuinely want to reciprocate, they're going to ask you. And if not, then now move on.
Yeah.
Not the end of the world, but yeah, do that without any kind of expectation, and things happen. It's really actually cool to watch.
It's crazy that that you say that, man. Because I as you're saying that, I just remembered, like, a couple days ago, earlier this week, I got a person's email. So I have a landscaping company outside of this, and so I got a person that I met a person through a networking event. And anyways, long story short, I followed up with her just to give her my contact or whatever. I didn't say, hey, what do you need a proposal? Like, can I come give you a quote or anything like that? But basically the conversation boiled down to just an introduction. It was just a simple introduction. And then she asked me if I knew anybody in specific other industries for her location. And I was like, yeah, I know a person for that, know a person for this. And so I was able to then transfer that. And it's like, when you're able to do that with people, it's like when you're networking with somebody, like, getting the client or the customer is one thing, but when you get other people, clients or customers, like, they're just going to work with you that much more. You know what I mean? And it just strengthens the relationship. And it's like, there's probably, like in this example I'm using, there's probably like 4 or 5 different interactions just because of an introduction. And then she said, hey, do you know somebody this? And so it's just like, I mean, I feel like that's the person that you really want to work with, because it's like what am I trying to say here? It's like an equal exchange, basically. Like, everybody's benefiting from that one thing.
Yeah. And you get just as much credit as the guy or gal that comes and does a good job, which is really cool. Cause I might not be anywhere in that niche, but if I referred somebody to you and they did a really good job, I now get that same gold star. Like, it's not split evenly. Everybody gets their own. So you're able to kind of branch out a little bit, in the sense that you're able to help your customers or the people get more things done well. And you reap the rewards of that too, because they're going to continue to come back. So if somebody comes in and says, hey, can you help me with this? You're like, you know what, that's not really my area, but hey, have you met Cody? Right. And they go right in, and it's awesome.
What is there's an expression. It's like, people that if you have a bad experience at a company, they tell 10 people. If they have a positive experience, they tell 1 or something like that. Something along those lines.
Yeah, there's definitely truth to that. But I think it's actually a little bit it's better on the good side. I think they tell a little bit more people, because that's been my experience. It goes longer too, where you might not hear anything back from them for a couple of years, and then down the road it's like, hey, remember this? And you didn't necessarily even remember this person or the impact that you had on them, but they did. That really sticks with people. So even if they don't tell as many people as they do with a bad experience, it's still exponentially better, because you didn't have that bad experience, right? So they didn't tell 10 negative things about you. And if they only told 2 or 3, and that goes on for years, that's massive. That's multiplicative. So,
yeah. I think a big thing that kind of intimidates people in networking is, like, you don't really And this is one of the reasons that I empathize with podcasters, because I understand this is a great way to do this. But you don't really like if you're trying to network with somebody, it's really hard to get that person in a space where you can talk to them and be present with them, for long enough to even know anything about them, because people are so busy. Like these people, especially in the B2B space, man, you got managers and administrators and whoever, and these people are so busy, and just having like a 30-minute meeting with them sometimes is almost impossible. So it's really, and I understand it, I get it. It's really hard to get in front of those people a lot of times that you really need to, that are the actual decision makers for this B2B space. And I think that's something that, kind of shies a lot of people away. Either it shies them away, or like in my situation, I've had this experience before. You work with people in that space who they're nice to be around. They're great people. And, you talk to them for an hour or whatever it is, but all they're going to do is take that information and relay it to the person who's the decision maker. And it's just like, it's not the same, because that person's not talking to you. They don't really get to, get the vibe. They don't see a face and that kind of stuff. And so I don't know, man, I think that's a big obstacle. I feel like for a lot of people, especially small businesses, but a lot of people in that B2B space, that's a big obstacle for them.
Yeah, it's still the best way to get in front of those people is going to be a warm referral. Somebody saying, "Hey, have you met Cody?" and going in, because you don't have to bypass the decision maker at that point. You already have that gold star going in because they like somebody. So, I mean, the approach with those is probably going to be, finding out who their circle is, networking with them, and working your way in through it, because that's what happens if I have a really good experience with somebody. Let's say they're a financial advisor. And I'm able to provide value, even if they're not necessarily somebody I'm going to be able to help with my offer. They know, like, you're not necessarily trying to sell that person anything. You're just trying to help them out in the hopes that they can refer you and try and reciprocate. So that's been my experience, is less so the direct, "Hey, I'd like you to do X, Y, Z." And it's like, "Hey, come back on, April 42nd. Like, okay. Right. But saying, "Hey, you know what? Cody referred me to you. I'm happy that we met. Let's have a couple minutes," and then you do the same thing for them. You just go in, you provide value, and they go, "This was a really good experience." And then have that ask, or, have them ask you, "How can I help you out? How can I reciprocate?" And you're like, "Well, funny you should say this." So it's not direct. It can be hard to figure out. But once you get good at it and you start helping more and more people, it kind of happens naturally. So it might not be the exact person that you want to meet, but it might be, 2 or 3 connections from, and then spider webs too. So it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely worth it once you get it going.
Well, and so that warm referral thing too, that's a good point, because like I was thinking about a situation that I had about a couple weeks ago, a month ago. A person, so I talk a lot of times about being a problem solver. Like in the B2B space, you want to be a problem solver for these people that you're doing the business with. And so this guy comes to, we have a location that we do. And the guy comes to me and he says, I got a problem with my fence. Like something happened to my fence. I don't know if somebody, hit it or whatever. He's like, "I'm missing a piece of my fence." And so he was like, "Do you know somebody who is in the fencing business that can fix this?" And I actually did. And so I called them up. They had it fixed like that, within a week or whatever it was. But so like first of all, the fence person, they got that business from it. Everything was good. The job was done the way it was supposed to. And then the person that went to me, I was able to then solve a problem for him that, when it's something that I don't even do, but I was able to do that because I was networking with the right person. And so that's just that's just the power of network. That's just the value of it.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. It is powerful. And when you start off, it's kind of intimidating because you're like, "I don't know anybody." It doesn't really take a lot to start getting introductions to people, though. Start where you're at, go to different events. Like if you're in person, go to chamber events, meet some people, talk about, what they're doing. And like I said, use those tools, leverage that, start talking about what you're doing, and people start to, introduce you from there. You do the same thing, and it's just consistency, just like with anything else in business. If you do it once, it's not going to pay off. But if you do it 100 times, it's multiplicative. It starts doing more and more and more. And, that's the thing with networking. It works exactly that way. Like you said in the, beginning, it's not who you know or whatever. It's who knows you. So being that fence guy, that was super important to him, because they got a sale that they would never have otherwise gotten. The guy would have went on, Google. I don't know where your buddy ranks in Google search, but if they're not on the front page, they were never going to get that business. So
yeah. I don't know. It's crazy, man. In this, but like what's actually fascinating to me about this it sounds like it's an obvious thing, but like this is something I had to learn really the hard way in business, was like the power of knowing people, getting to know people. Because like when I started my business, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to put this in marketing, and I'm going to get on social media and do the flyers and all this stuff. But it, like, nobody ever told me, it never crossed my mind to like meet, like you said, meet people where these people associate, where they in these meetings, the chambers or whatever it is. And it just never crossed my mind. But then you think about people who are at the, like, I would say the upper levels of financial wealth in their businesses, like the Elon Musk and those guys. They have a like, that's all they do is go to these networking things, and it's just like they're growing their business because of that. I know we're talking about like outliers with the Musk and the Bezos and those guys, but I mean, you got to think, man, like how, like, I'm sure there have been times, even at that level, Elon Musk's almost lost his company several times. There was probably somebody he was able to reach out to and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. You're my billionaire buddy. Are you able to loan me a couple mil in this situation? I mean, I don't know. You never know.
No, absolutely. And I mean, there's that trope. What is it? Your network is your net worth. Right. So,
Right. Yeah.
it's you can determine somebody's success by like the 5 closest people to them, or however it goes. And you can bet, the closest people to Elon aren't just like Joe Schmo, right? It's somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. I mean, he's buddy with the president, right?
Yep.
So that's just a network at a very large scale. And he's at the point now where he doesn't need to network because people are actively trying to network with him, and he can be picky. Because who wouldn't want to know, Elon? Who wouldn't even want a reposted tweet from Elon, right? If you go on X and he even thumbs up your comment, you're getting millions of views, where you might be getting a couple thousand before. So he has that ability to kind of reach down and go, "You're important now," right? So that's just networking at the extreme, and most people clearly won't get to that point, but you can have a fraction of that locally, or in your circle, where you're that guy, you're the person that everybody goes to. Hey, I know a guy, go talk to so and so. So you can do that, and it can grow to your Elon Musk level.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask you about the financial stuff. Are you still doing that? What are you still doing any of that stuff?
Yeah, so that's a fraction of what I'm doing, because with all the stuff that I started, it's taking up more and more of my time, and it's kind of played into itself really well, because I don't necessarily do any of the selling or any of that bit of it. I basically I inform and introduce. Hey, I had this conversation with a business owner. You said that you need help in these areas. I know a guy. Let's go have a conversation here. They're going to help you in this way. So it's kind of morphed into, yes, I do it. But when I'm having a conversation with somebody that could potentially use my my services, I have that conversation, and I'm having that conversation just as the podcast guy or the newsletter guy or whatever it is. And then at the end of it, they know, like me, trust me a little bit. I was able to provide value. I can ask a couple questions. I can say, hey, what are some pain points you're facing? If they mention something that I'm able to help them with, I can help them directly with it. Or just as frequently now is they mention areas that I can't help them with, but because of what I've been doing and growing my network, I have somebody that can. So
Okay.
yes, I do, but it's more of the, a piggyback. It's like a hand in glove thing. So my main focus being, the podcast and newsletter, but I can absolutely still help with those, and I still do. And they're still hugely, hugely helpful for businesses.
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry, I might not have phrased that question the right way. I was kind of asking, like so before the podcast, when you were working in this, you were working with businesses. I think you said to help them grow, and it was help them grow, but I think it was like, I don't know if it was financial planning that was involved in there. What was that?
No, yeah, my title was a business profit advocate.
Okay,
Basically,
okay.
I'm helping businesses find money or save money in ways that they might not know they have available to them.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So are you still doing that piece of it?
Yeah. It's like I
Okay,
said, it just kind of goes along with this now. So I'm still talking with business owners. It's
okay.
still get referred to it, and the benefit now is that I just have a larger group of people that know what I do, and that's kind of to your point, where when you're having a conversation with somebody, they walk away knowing what Cody does, but that wasn't the point of the conversation. You were able to help them out, provide some sort of value. Now they're out there, and if it comes across their head saying, you know what, I need somebody that does this, it's like, there's Cody. So I'm doing it in that sense. Yeah.
Okay. So how would you help a person, or what would be a situation a person would be in where they might hire you for the profit. Cause I feel like I feel like that is a topic that everybody is interested in. Like,
Yeah.
help me maximize profit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no. Like I said, I had some restrictions. I can help companies in the U.S. and they had to have more than 10 full-time W-2 employees.
Okay.
If they're in that situation, there's likely some things I can do to help them. I have different programs that, let's say a company doesn't have a major medical program in place, but they still want to be able to add some kind of benefits to their employees because having something to keep your employees around is super important. You want that employee
Right.
retention. You want to be able to track talent. Things like restaurants or whatever it is that maybe have a higher turnover rate. Being able to offer something is going to make you more competitive out there. So we have some programs. One of my favorite ones, essentially, it's a net savings for the business owner, saves them money on their payroll taxes. The employees, they receive a net pay raise and some benefits that don't interfere with whatever they have. So if they have benefits in place, great. If they don't have benefits, great. This isn't going to prevent your employees from going and getting independent coverage. But it's just a good way to say, hey, now you have free urgent care, primary care, preventative care, and more money in your pocket. So that's a healthier, happier employee. You save money and have better retention because of it. That's a healthy business owner, healthy, happy business owner. And so things like that are where I can come in and say, based on what you're doing, we could probably help you out in this way. Let me introduce you. They're gonna go into detail and show you empirically how they're able to do that.
Okay. Would you work with a person or a business or a group of people maybe if they were kind of new starting out and were trying to figure out how to price their product or service?
Are you talking about like with the programs that I was just mentioning?
Well, I don't know. When you say you work with them to sort of increase profit or maximize profit,
Mhm.
like if a person comes to you and says, "Hey, I feel like my service or product is not valued or priced at what it should be," would you
Mm,
help them
yeah.
maybe like
So
price it correctly?
so that's not my expertise. Mine is more
Okay.
of like the benefit side by
Okay.
finding
Okay.
profits and overpayments. But I I know a lot of people that
Right. Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be good fits for. So I would
Yeah.
absolutely help them out, but it wouldn't be me directly doing it now.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember, man, like when I started my landscaping company, that was a big problem. Was like, how do I price this thing? You know, like, and then if you price it, you're like, oh well, this seems a little expensive, and then you start doing it, and you realize, well, damn, this isn't enough.
Yeah.
Like, well, all these expenses, I have to pay for these things. Like, I need to go up, and I don't know. I know there's a big thing to for people who start businesses and stuff, like how do they price it? And then I think that they think if they go the absolute cheapest, they'll probably get most business, and they'll probably get a lot from that. But the problem is, it's not sustainable, or at least it's not scalable, because you can't get to a certain point. If you're like the cheapest in the industry, it's probably going to be very difficult for you to scale or grow. There's a reason that everybody else related in the industry is pricing it what they're pricing it, because there's things involved.
Mhm.
But I don't know. But I do know. I remember that, man. I remember those days of like, it was almost like I had to. I was, and I wish I could go back, because I wasted a lot of time. I was trying to reinvent the wheel. Like, oh well, this thing takes me this long. I think I need to charge this much for this. Like, maybe I should do that. And then I would do a job, and it would be like I would just barely break even. And it's like, oh, back to the drawing board. Like, let's try this again.
I've had those exact conversations with a lot of people that do that,
Yeah.
and it's like, what's going to set you apart? I'm half the
Right.
price of the competitors. A good portion of the people out there aren't going to do business with you because they think it's
That's right.
cheap. They're not going to think you do as good a job.
That's right.
And you could take that route. I'm sure some people are super successful doing it, but I've heard stories and seen people like, yeah, I basically just doubled my price, focused on a different avenue where I'm better than everybody else, and my business went up just from that one change. And
Yep.
you're absolutely right. Pricing yourself appropriately, making sure that you're charging an appropriate amount, but then also, trying to set yourself apart to justify why. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a million different ways you can do that. Like I said, I'm not the expert there, but there's a lot of people that, have benefited from doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's 100% true, man. Because if you are too cheap, people, first of all, they're going to think the quality is not there, and then they're going to think that you're not going to be able to live up to the standards of that job because you're not charging enough. So at some point during the job, you're going to say, "Hey, I need some more money," or whatever. Um, but then it's like too. You were talking about there's a lot of different ways to do this, and if did you say that you hear a lot of people say that in that specific, like in the trades sort of industry? Like you,
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it there. I'm trying to remember exactly what the industries were. I think it was trade. I think it was yeah, it was trades, and then there was something else that it was at. I think it was some sort of I'm trying to think of the name of it. Like catering company is where another one where they're like, we'll cater the stuff for, fraction. Then their margins were super thin, and
Right.
they would miss some of the higher, bigger venues because those people aren't necessarily looking for cheap. They're looking for quality, and you could
Yep.
have the best quality, but if they see the price, it's like, why are you have to price? They're suspicious and they
Right.
don't do business with you. So
Yep.
just pricing themselves appropriately, they were able to go in and start capturing that kind of business. And it's like, we're doing the exact same work, but we're making twice as much for it.
Mm. Well, and then so like so if you're half the price or a fraction of the price, that's one thing because people aren't going to see. They're going to think like I said, you can't deliver on the value. But then it's like, okay, well, you can market research and see what the market's charging for this thing or what the service are, but then the problem there is like, can you deliver on that same quality?
Mhm.
Like if you match the norm for the market, that maybe that's the way to do it if you can deliver to the same standards.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. There's not everybody out there is driving the cheapest car right now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's not having the 15-year-old, truck, whatever it is. Uh, they want what they want, and being able to price yourself accordingly. You could be the most expensive person on the market and do fantastic simply because there's that perceived quality with price, but then also you do deliver on it. You have great customer service. You're exceeding expectations. So I think a lot of people are afraid to kind of go after that higher market area. But if you can, like you said, if you can keep that quality and you can, do well there, you're getting paid more for the same kind of work. So you can take less jobs, make more money. So there's definitely a play in that area too. You don't have to be the cheapest, probably don't want to be anyway.
And I think no, you definitely don't. But I think that's the power of a niche, though, realizing what your niche is. Like if you can do, like you said earlier, the best thing, whatever you can do the best, like the service or product that you can provide the best, and just kind of zeroing in on that, then you can probably deliver to those standards.
Mm-hmm.
That's something, man. My landscaping company mostly does commercial and industrial maintenance. And I realized that about 5 years ago that's really the space we wanted to focus on. And I mean, there's several different reasons for that, but like when I realized that's where I want to be, there was a lot of shifts. I mean, there's a lot of shifts that had to happen to like focus on that. But once I started focusing on that, I was like, okay, this is where I can do things like build a system that's tailored to this, and then build marketing that's tailored to this. Because if not, like you're going to be, if you're everywhere, you're nowhere. If you're trying to do everything, there's not much you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And you see these, I get it, man. I get it because I was the same way. But you see these trades guys, they're like, the side of their truck has like 50 different services on it. It's like it's like landscaping and pressure washing and painting and all that. And there's all these different things. Okay, well, just in those couple of industries, you're talking about several truckloads of tools, So like, what are you're going to truck these different tools around to everything? You're going to need a freaking, semi truck to take all your tools around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, but I remember it, man. And I know, I get why. It's like you're just trying to get out there and make a name for yourself, and you're trying to make business and you're trying to make revenue. I understand it. But if you can zero in on one of those things,
Yep.
instead of just trying to do everything.
Yeah, no, that goes back to branding, niching, and networking. Because if you do the one thing and you do it really well, and you try and add 3 other things, you're not going to do all 3 of the things the same quality. It's going to cost you more. It's going to be time consuming. It's going to be confusing. But if you do the one thing really well, and you have really good relationships with 2 other companies that do the other 2 things that you consider doing really well, now they're out doing it, and they're actively marketing for you because you do this one thing really well, and you've shared business back and forth, and you can focus on that one thing, keep your quality and your brand real pristine, and everybody else that you're working with, they can focus on theirs, and now you don't have to buy all the other tools. You don't have to have 50 things on your truck. It could be simple. Somebody drives by it and they go, I don't need any of that list, right? As opposed to I do this, and they know you do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all plays together.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, man. I didn't realize it that way. But if somebody drives by and they're just riding by, like they don't have enough time to read everything on that list, like
Yeah, your rap didn't really do you much good. It's just it might as well be black. I can't read all that while I'm driving.
No, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, man, gosh. I mean, I had the t-shirts and everything with like the 30. I think at one point I had a business card that had, the name of my business, which at the time was a different business than what it is now. And then it had like a couple services. And I think at the bottom I had like 30 plus service. I literally had the words 30 plus services available.
Yeah.
And I just like, oh man, like I don't know. I think about it. I think about those days, man. It's just like, I learned a lot in that space, but I wish I could talk to myself back then and say, hey man, I appreciate the ambition, but how about we focus on these few things right here?
There's a reason there's so many cliches out there. The riches are in the niches. That's another one where it's like, nope, I do one thing and I do it better than everybody else. You should have me do your one thing. And then let everybody else that you're partnered with advocate for you on that one thing. It's exponential.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And that's something else too. I was sort of, back in, and I guess maybe I don't know if it was a scarcity mindset or whatever, but I was sort of like skeptical about working with people in similar industries. But now, like I have a person, so like landscaping maintenance is sort of what we do. I have a person that I refer to that does just irrigation systems. If you have a problem with your irrigation systems, I got a person for that. I have a person that does just trees, just trees, like takes trees down, prunes trees, whatever. So like with the three of us, that's a full scale landscaping right there, and that's powerful too, man, because going back to networking, those two companies, those two people also have people come to them like, hey, maybe it's a HOA or something. Hey, you guys mow grass? Well, no, we don't mow grass, but I know a company for that, And so it's just, I guess that was one thing. There's a lot of different fears I feel like you feel as a early business owner, and I mean even an experienced business owner, but like as an early entrepreneur, there's a lot of fears, and that scarcity mindset is definitely one. Because dude, there was a lot of jobs I probably should have walked away from because the next day my back would be hurting because I had the right tools or whatever it was. I was like, man. But hang on just a second.
Yeah, no, we were talking about having those other two guys, have like HOAs and stuff come to them.
Yeah. So I mean, but that's kind of that's kind of what we're saying here, like knowing those people. So we've hit networking, man. I think we've covered networking pretty good. We covered the what you do with the financial stuff. Do you get involved with marketing at all, like helping people with marketing, or do you have anything in that sort of space?
So yeah, that's not my niche, but my whole niche being the I know a guy. I do make introductions and know people that are really good at that. My marketing has been networking. So that's kind of where everything that I've done is tied into. But if somebody's looking like for traditional marketing, I know high level bit about it, just enough to be dangerous and to ask the appropriate questions so that I can make decent introductions. But yeah, no, marketing's super interesting though, because it's ever changing, and what works now might not work in a month. So it's one of those things that you can spend a lot of time going down rabbit holes trying to find what's optimal for your business, because it seems to always be shifting.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit that on the head, man. It's just ever changing. There's so many different ways I feel like to do it. Again, going back to my early days in landscaping, if you can believe this or not, I actually ran a thing in the local newspaper. That was one of the ways that I marketed the land. And I mean, it was like okay traction, but like now, unfortunately, man, I feel like if the newspapers, if they even still make those, I think they do. If they don't adapt to like something that's virtual, they might not be around too much longer. But yeah, anyway, I remember that. I remember back in that, like, it was like but like now, I was just gonna say now, if you try, well, first of all, if I try to do that now, it's a completely different market, completely different niche. So it would never work for me now anyways. But if we were doing the residential stuff and we tried that, I wonder how well that would work out. Like
you would have your diehards that still get the newspaper. I'm sure there's some out there. The fact that some of them still exist is what's shocking me. I think we came in at a transitionary time where it's like we could see pre-internet and post-internet, and then how it's changed over the time. And now we're pre-AI and post-AI, because that's going to be just as big of a change going forward. And that's going to probably, not interfere, but, augment what we're doing as far as marketing goes. And I don't know how a newsletter is going to be able to exist in the next, a newspaper is going to be able to exist in the next, 30 years. I think they might be going extinct.
Well, it's like it's like you think about Blockbuster. They probably saw the curve coming with the online streaming, like with Netflix and stuff. And had they just, I don't know, I'm not saying this is easy, but I mean, had they just made that shift to the online space, they might still be around. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I just feel like the adaptability of any business is extremely important, especially right. Like the world has changed so much just in the last couple of years, man.
Yeah. Well, Blockbuster, they had the option to buy Netflix at one point, didn't they?
Yeah,
For
I
like,
think so. I think
a
so.
little bit, and that was a mistake. But no, it has, and it's like you said, it's changed a lot, and it seems like it's accelerating. Because if you look between the shift in marketing and stuff between, let's say, 50s, 60s, 70s, there's definitely changes that happen, hairstyles and all that.
Right.
But between, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it's been a bigger shift. And now between 2000, 2010, 2000 into the 20s, it's going to be an even bigger shift. So it's accelerating because new things are coming on quicker. And that's just how science and, technology has been working is, we'll make little improvements that turn into bigger improvements, that turn into faster, bigger improvements. And it's hard to keep up with. So I don't know what's in. I don't know what's on the horizon. I do see like, and I've had a lot of conversations with people with the AI space where it's going to be
Oh yeah.
more and more and more. And the people that were left behind because of the internet, that's going to be a fad. It'll be gone tomorrow. I think it's going to be a repeat of that. And then who knows, maybe in another 10 years, there'll be another thing.
Yeah. AI is going to change things so quick. Like it's, and it might already be around. I'm not sure, but once AI is integrated with vehicles, that's when we're really going to see a change. Like because we already have, the Bluetooth and all that stuff is already in vehicles, and we have most of the technology already in vehicles. And I don't know, Teslas might have, I'm sure they have some sort of AI in them, or the brand new cars probably have it. I have a 21 and it doesn't have AI, but it does have all the connections, all the, the things that were, so I don't know, man, the AI space, I think it's scary because I'm optimistic about it. Like I think we can use it for good, but I think basically what's going on with AI is people are like, okay, we didn't realize this was as big as it was, but it's here now. So now we're kind of forced to learn how to use it and operate it so it doesn't use us. I think that's, it's almost like that's the space that we're in.
Yeah, I grew up watching Terminator. I have a healthy fear of it, trust me. But no, you're right too. And a lot of people, because AI it's been big already. It's not like it's new as in yesterday. There's big companies that have been using it for a good little bit now, and it's a lot of us, smaller ones that are starting to realize, okay, we do need to get going, or else we are going to be left behind. And then we start to embrace it, and you're like, oh, this does make things easier. Turns out I can do quite a lot more if I'm not dealing with the mundane little bits. And that's just going to continue to change. I don't know, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I don't know if we're going to recognize much anything that we're currently doing. I think it's all going to kind of shift. So kind of be ahead of that curve.
Well, I'll say this about AI, because this is actually how I feel about this. So if you're talking about the mundane stuff, the everyday stuff, if you can use AI for that, like we've talked about Opus in the past, Opus Clips, incredible use of AI. Although it's not 100% accurate, it is a good use of AI. But I would very much strongly encourage and implore people to not use AI for creative purposes. Because if we do that, we are going to, for lack of a better word, dumb ourselves down over time. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think for the everyday stuff, automating things, I think that's great. But don't write your college paper with AI. You know what I mean? Like, let's
yeah.
Don't go down that route, because if you get into a place like, and I know they have the Ray-Bans, I think Ray-Bans has the AI glasses with Facebook or whatever, but if you use AI for all this stuff and then you get into a business meeting or a podcast, what are you going to do when that's not around? You're just going to be like, oh wait, let me get a chat real quick and ask ChatGPT what is it?
Yeah, the people that are really going to be able to utilize AI to its fullest are going to be the people that could work without it, because you know what it's doing. It's you know what you need, you know how to get what you need out of it, but you're not relying on it. It's like, yeah, I could do this. I could 100% spend the next hour researching this topic, or I can ask a couple great questions. It researches it for me. I write my blog, or I put this together, or I film the video and talk about after knowing. That's the appropriate way to use it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a good chance we dumb ourselves down where you see a comment, you go, I got to go to ChatGPT and ask what I should say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you
I
see
mean,
those comments.
and
Like,
look, I get it. Like the time saving stuff, man, I get it. It can research, thousands of pages in a couple seconds. You ask a question and it just consolidates everything right there. That I understand, but man, but it's like too, I've had this conversation with somebody before. If AI, large language models, are basically just search the internet for things and then put that into an answer, then it's already using human creativity that's out on the, like it's using things that we have as humans have put on the internet, and then it's reading that and consolidating that information. At least that's how I understand it. So it's not like the AI is thinking for itself, but what it is doing is if you ask it to write a paper for you, then it's basically taking everybody else's and what is it? So you're not plagiarizing, putting it in ChatGPT words, and just making a summary of it. I don't know, man. I don't know. I will say this though. And I think truly, truly creative people like artists and painters and musicians and stuff, I don't think you're ever going to be able to mimic that with AI. Like, I think that's something that really comes from the soul. I mean, even entrepreneurship is an art form, but if you ask AI to, like create a picture or something, it's like some of it looks really good, like almost realistic, but then some of it's like a cartoon type thing. So I don't think it's going to get like 100% creative, but I'm just saying, I don't use it for creativity, just use it for research, use it to save time, but don't let it do your job.
yeah, this kind of goes back to the pricing model. If you're using AI for everything, you're going to have a lower quality, cheaper content. The people that actually put in the effort, you're going to notice that difference. You're going to notice that this was drawn by a person, this was animated, or painted or whatever by a person. That's going to be able to be sold for a premium because it took more time, it took effort, it took talent, and it wasn't just mass produced. Like, AI is going to be the low cost leader for sure. They're going to come in cheaper because they can do a multitude of more things than you could, just whatever. But you're still going to have that higher market ticket where this was 100% made by a human. So it might just shift in that way as well. So I hope it's that way, if it's going to shift anyway, because then, we still have a valuable thing to do as people. And it's not like you said, we're not all brain dead.
Have you ever, talking about ChatGPT for a minute? Well, first, let me say this. ChatGPT is notorious for going down. Like it's every like week or something is crashing. But I actually I went online the last time I used it, it was down. I just Googled, was it down? And it brought up, I don't know, a Reddit thread or something. And one person was like, yeah, it's been down for like 3 hours. I can't get any work done. I was like, bro, what are you doing that you have to use ChatGPT to do your work? But there's a better one. There's a good one called Perplexity. And it's made specifically for researching. And the way it works is it'll say, like, if you have a question, it'll answer it. And it'll say the sentences. It might have a couple of YouTube links of like videos talking about that thing. But then at the end of some of the sentences, it'll have a link for a source on where it got that information. So if you see something and it says, oh, this statistic says this, you can click on that link and it'll take you to the actual website that it got that information from. And I like that because, ChatGPT has been known for making some pretty profound errors on some things. So I think Perplexity is used more for research purposes, and I like that. I like that about it. How are you looking on time? You got a couple minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I wanted to make sure that I'll probably try to wrap up in about 15, 20 minutes. But I wanted to make sure you had enough time to promote something, your website or your podcast while you were here. I don't want to forget that part.
Yeah, I'm good till the top of the hour.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna probably end about 15, 20 minutes. And that'll give me a little buffer time between the next one. Cause I got that other guy at the top of the hour too. So,
sounds good.
So we talked about networking. We talked about marketing. I guess maybe kind of in that we talked about the branding, building the power of your personal brand, the like who you are and putting yourself out there to people. I think that's critical, man. But to go down the personal growth route is like, you almost have to kind of know who you are before you put yourself out there. I just cause I tell people all the time, and I remember, I was talking to a guy one time and I was like, when I started really focusing on growing myself and like becoming hopefully a better person, like I feel like my business improved because of that. And I was like, I don't know, that this was a while back. I was like, I don't know which one was a byproduct of the other. He was like, well, it's definitely your business improved because you started focusing on yourself for sure. Like, so it got to the point where I was starting to hire more people, lead more people, having to go around, network with more people. And it was like, I don't know, just for me, it was very powerful, that journey of self-improvement and just kind of exploring yourself, knowing who you are. Like, just in a conversation, there's different personality types. So knowing your personality type and how you come across to the other person, especially when you're selling or leading somebody, like that's critical is like not a strong enough word for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to know how you come across,
Oh, for sure. And you'll get feedback about that if you're talking to the right kind of people. They'll be like, hey, I really love this. But you're absolutely right. When you're starting off as a business owner, or if you're starting off trying to get into networking or starting anything, you don't know what you don't know going in.
Right.
So first off, be humble, stay humble, enough to ask questions. You don't have to take everybody's advice. If somebody gives you, an answer that's like, that's kind of contradictory to, me, don't take it. But, be willing to hear criticism, especially if it's coming from the right place, and then filter it through what you're wanting. And that's the big thing too with networking or building your brand, or anything, is just understanding that ultimately you get to decide what you're going to do, and ultimately you get to decide what success looks like. So if you're the kind of person that gets swayed by shiny objects, understand that, and work on yourself, because I'm one to chase rabbits. I'm one to go after that. And then there's other people that they're like, oh, I'm gonna go rent a Lamborghini, I'm gonna pose in front of it, tell you how to make 7 figures a year. Realize that that's not what you're wanting to do. If success for you is just, I made enough to retire my spouse, I made enough to be able to spend nights and weekends with my kids, go on a 7-day trip, and I know my business isn't going to implode without me. If that's success for you, go for that. Don't let the shiny objects kind of sway you as well. But to your point, self-development, that's gonna play into all of that, because you're gonna understand, like you said, you're gonna understand yourself better. You're gonna understand how you're coming off to people better, and there's a multitude of different ways of doing that. There's so much out there in the self-development space. Finding somebody that could be a mentor is huge, or a coach. Finding some good books. Just trying daily activities. Try it on like a hat. Hey, I'm going to do this thing for a month. I'm going to try the black swan technique, where I'm doing XYZ, or I'm going to try just saying yes there. Whatever it is, just try a bunch of different things and see what works for you. So there's a lot to the self-development. We could go down that rabbit hole for a while.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a good point, man. Which was that we were talking about the if you're the kind of person who goes for the shiny object, if that's your thing, or if your version of success is like the family thing. I think a big problem that we have is, like, with social media and everything. You go online, you go on Instagram. It's like there's a definition of what success is supposed to be, and then we're all trying to like race towards that thing. But I say all the time, like, success might be something different for everybody. I mean, if you, like you said, it is a significant thing to have a family, and you can go on vacation with your family and your business still operate while you're on vacation. Like, that's huge. You know what I mean? And so, because most people are so attached to their business that if they're not in their business, working in their business every single day, that it's not getting done. And then obviously there's, something that needs to be explored there. But, yeah, I think that self-authenticity and having that conversation with yourself and say, hey, you know what? And that leads us to the conversation about purpose. So we talk about self-development. That's a huge topic, is purpose. Like, why are you doing this thing that you're doing? But yeah, I think having that self-awareness with yourself and say, hey, these things are going to motivate me. These things inspire me. These things are going to kind of hinder me. And just, having that awareness with yourself and thinking, like, finding out what that is for you. I think the problem is with that especially one thing that I had was, like, I wouldn't say it was a lack of confidence. It was almost like a lack of, like, I don't know. That's just a hard conversation to have with yourself,
Yeah, and we all have our faults. So finding that, mine has always been saying no to people. Right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
somebody's
Yeah.
like, "Hey,
That's a
can
big
we do
one.
X, Y, Z?" It's like, I'll make some room on my calendar when I need to be a little bit more guarded with my calendar. And that's still something that I'm going to work through. It's it's part of being an entrepreneur, just being a person. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
That you understand. Okay, here's my shortcomings. What can I do to make improvements? It doesn't have to be overnight. It's not going to be overnight if you do it right. But understanding those shortcomings, so that if you are wanting to improve, where to actually improve. It's
Right.
Somebody asked me, "Hey, can you give me directions to Florida or to, let's say, Tallahassee?" I'm like, "Okay, great. I need to know where you're at if I'm going to give you any directions." So it's the same thing. Understand who you are and what success looks like for you. Then you can find that path to get there.
Yeah. And I think another big thing too, man, is realizing that everybody's journey is different. You might have similar goals to somebody, but the path might be different. And just
Mhm.
just because one thing worked for somebody else doesn't mean it will or will not work for you. And that's why I said like this whole entrepreneurship thing is literally an art form, because you have similar goals, but the way that you do it is going to be almost like subjective to your life and you and who you are as a person. And I don't know. I don't think we should get over committed to, like you hear about the average millionaire wakes up at 5 a.m., whatever. And that might be true. I don't know. But I also know that there's a lot of millionaires who are working at midnight. So it's like, which one fits you better? Because me, I'm not the guy that's up at 5 a.m. Like I can't I can't do that. It's much more likely that I would be the guy who's working at midnight or 1 a.m. I'm just
Mhm.
but that's where that works for me, And so I don't know if we try and I get it, the jump start on the day or everything, all that stuff. But I feel like you can get the same head start if you work late the night before, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah. And there's definitely truth there. It's like, well, I like getting up at 5 because I have a couple hours just to me. It's like, yeah, I get the same couple hours from 11 to 1, right? If
yeah.
that's you, if you're that night owl, I think it's important to know. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, Listen, man, I'm gonna wrap up shortly here. Where can you be found? Do you have social media, website, your podcast, or
Yeah.
anything?
Yeah, the easiest way to find me is my website. All my socials and everything are there. It's ikag.me, so the acronym for I know a guy.me. I
Okay.
post all my videos there, my newsletters there, all my socials are there. That's the best way to find me, get a hold of me.
Okay. So one thing that I ask everybody before we close, if you could share one of the most important lessons you've ever learned, it could be from your personal life if you're comfortable with that, or from your business or career. What do you think is one of the most important lessons you've ever learned?
Be interested, not interesting. Read the book How to
Mm,
Win Friends and Influence People, and if you're in any kind of profession, or if you own a business, or any time in your day you talk to people, take that and remember that, go into that conversation interested in what they have to say. Don't try and be the center of attention or be the main topic. Just be interested in people, ask genuine questions, make genuine connections, and it's going to take you places you wouldn't expect. You'll be able to, meet people you would never have otherwise met. You'll be the people that people remember and refer. It's going to help you in basically every aspect of your life. So, if I had one piece of advice, yeah, be interested, not interesting.
that's a good one. That's a good. I've never heard that before, but that makes a lot of sense. Um, the book you said who was it? Zig Ziglar.
Yeah, so Zig Ziglar, helping up people get what they want, you get what you want. But How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's Dale
That's
Carnegie.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to I read that book. So I don't know. The first couple of years I was in business, I went through this phase where I was reading a lot of books, listened to a lot of Tony Robbins and that kind of stuff. And the How to Win Friends and Influence People, that was one I remember. I
Mm-hmm.
remember that one. And it's crazy how relevant that stuff is still today. Like you would think like a book that old, but I mean, that's just human nature.
Exactly. He boiled it down, and that's about a yearly read for me. I recommend. It should be mandatory reading in high school because I don't care
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing. Communicating better is going to help you.
Yeah, man, don't even get me started on that.
Yeah.
Because on the education, because I talk a lot about the education on here. I don't know. I feel like there's things we're not taught that we should be, and
Oh.
it's crazy because something as basic to human interaction as communication, like I feel like that's something we should. Because unfortunately, a lot of people don't have parents that teach them this. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the second best thing is the education system that we all go through, or hopefully we go through. But I feel like that I don't know why we don't learn that.
Yeah.
Communicating emotions, listening to people.
We have public speaking class, but not how to actually speak class, right? How to talk to
Right?
people one on one, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the crazy thing is, man, like you said, with your personal journey is like saying no to people. I mean, that's essentially like part of communication.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way to do that and not be disrespectful, but like still value your own time and not overcommit. And so I don't know. It's just I don't know any scenario where being able to communicate better would not help you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean
Yep.
you. I mean it's just us in general.
Yeah, yeah. You're a person. You're a social being at your core. Even if you're introverted, you still need people sometimes. So talk to them better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, man, this has been great. Been a great conversation. If you can hang out for just a second, I'm gonna explain to you the upload and all that good stuff. But yeah, definitely appreciate your time and your insight here today.
Yeah, really appreciate you having me. This is awesome. Appreciate it, Cody.
Yeah, man. Hey guys, I appreciate you tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find more content at Pure Wisdom Podcast. This is on Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple and Google Podcasts. There you can like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time.